Well, good day, everybody. We're back, and today we're gonna do a little fiberglass. We got some body fill, we got some metal glazed putty, we got a little primer. We're gonna do some painting too, and some prepping. So, having said that, let's get to it.
This is what we will be filling, priming, and painting today. We already made this patch down here and welded it in, but we're splitting it into 2 episodes just to make it easier to understand, make the videos shorter. So if you want to see the welding, you can watch part 1, and for body fill and painting, you can watch this episode.
Okay, first thing we're gonna do, we've already ground this off. We did that in the previous episode. We've kind of prepped it too, but I'm going to show you again because this is very important. The entire surface, the bare metal everywhere down here has to be sanded really good in order for this to have a mechanical bond. So you want to prep your metal really good, and you want to feather your paint back. And we're starting with fiberglass, so we're going to start with 80 grit so it's got a really good scratch on it. Blow it off. You want a nice, clean, really well sanded surface. Make sure there's no shiny spots. It won't stick there. Whenever you're welding, always start with fiberglass. It's waterproof, and it'll just make it last longer. And you always start with this over your welds. You always need your hardener before you start. It might get a little watery or separate from sitting, and you don't want that. If this stuff doesn't go right, it's a real bugger to dig it all off and redo it. So get it right now. Any time you're mixing fiberglass, body fill, or finishing putty, whatever size circle you have, get yourself like a little pancake going there, and just run straight across it like this. And that's enough. That's all you need. Now we're gonna mix that. And you really want to mix it in good. It has to be evenly. Can you see the stripes in it there?
Yep.
You want to go till it's all an even color. But you want to move because now you've added the hardener. It is activating. Now that's mixed in really good. And when you're mixing it, make sure you don't have any on the knife because that's not mixed. And then when you go to smear it, if it gets in there, it won't harden. And also, push it down like this. Really try to push the air out of it. You'll get less air bubbles, and you'll just get a nicer job out of it. Just like that. That's evenly mixed. Let's go to the car. And we're just going to put that wherever we've welded. It takes a little knack, but you got to kind of move. First thing to do is to get it on there. Then if you have time before it hardens, then you can make it prettier. Just where we welded. It takes a little bit of practice. Be patient. Just like that. You accidentally fill a little hole there. That's okay. Just pull it out of there. Scrape off any excess on your board. Wipe off the bulk of it, just any on your fingers. Take a razor blade. It's almost hardening now, so it's really easy to move around. It's not so gooey anymore. Just like that. Ready for your next one. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and start knocking this off. We're going to start with some 40 grit. This stuff's really hard, and you got to let it cure real good. Let it go for like 20 minutes. And try to stay on the fiberglass with this, because this really puts a scratch in it. It'll be hard to cover it up, or you don't want a bunch of scratches in your paint. And this stuff's really deep. You don't want to get it on the paint. We just want to hit just the fiberglass. And we're just going to rough it out with this. We're not going to finish it off. Now we're going to go down to 80 grit, and you can see now we can go a little more onto the edge. We didn't scratch this paint at all. We're just roughing it out. If we got any low spots, we'll fill them after. Don't try to dig them out. You'll just make it more wavy. And when you're doing body fill, you can use your eyes, but you have to feel it to see where you're at. It'll look straight, but it could still be wavy. You've got to run your hand over it, put your hand flat and move quickly, and you'll feel any ba-dump underneath your hand as you move over it, where the low spots are, where there's still high spots, and that's how you get it straight. Go in both directions. That's pretty good. That's really good. Now, because we put more effort into the prep and the welding and spent our time, then you can see we don't have very much body fill on here. It's already poking through, and it's nice and straight. It's very transparent. It's not very thick at all. And now we should go to body fill, but I'm not even sure if we can't go straight to finishing putty with that. That feels really good. And blow it off. Now we're going to do our body fill. Same process. This stuff's going to dry a little bit faster, but the mix is the same. So just kind of go across your little circle there, leave a gap at the ends. That's all you need, and it mixes exactly the same way. In fact, this one should be a little easier to see because of the difference in color. We got blue hardener and green fiberglass. It's hard to see. Can you see the stripes in there? You want to go until it's an even color, and exactly the same way. Push the air bubbles out of it. Make sure you don't have any unmixed on your knife. Every once in a while, scrape it off completely, round it up. I've seen guys go like this and chop it. Don't do that. You'll get more air bubbles in it. Do it this way. You'll have much better results. We'll just apply that the same way we did with the fiberglass. You have a little more time to work with it, but not much. Well, actually, a little less time with this stuff. It's going to dry a little bit faster. And that's it. There we go. That's not bad for having a little bit left over. Okay, this time we're going to start with 80 grit, and we're going to do the same thing we did with the fiberglass. We're going to stay mostly on the putty. And I just want to show you this too. If you're ever in doubt if it's too thick. Oh, that's really hard to pull off there. This is really thin though. I haven't even sanded it yet. Just run a magnet over it, and if a magnet doesn't stick to it, it's too thick. You should dig it out and do a little more hammer and dolly, a little more metal work. Oh, that's really got a grip there. You could stick a fridge magnet to this, like it's so thin. Remember, check with your hands. Make sure it's going nice and straight. Now do a little 180. And blow it off. Go over the painted area with a little 220. We just don't want 180 scratches sticking out from underneath our finishing putty, and we're going to apply that next. Okay, you see these are air bubbles that are in the fill there, little dots like that. And this is what we're going to use the finishing putty for, just to fill this and the minor scratches. Now we're going to put our finishing putty on. This stuff's really runny. Make sure the board's clean. You don't want anything stuck in this. This is our final coat. You won't need that much. We just want to fill the pinholes. Some of the minor scratches, that's probably too much. But it's very runny. They all take the same hardener. This one comes with a smaller tube, but they're identical. They're benzoyl peroxide. And when you're doing finishing putty, to get the air bubbles out of it, usually if you just put some down, let it sit for 60 seconds. It'll start to bubble out. Like when you're cooking pancakes, literally. You start to get the bubbles on the bottom, and when they pop, you know it's time to flip. Well, when they pop, you know it's time to add your hardener and mix it. And once again, just leave a gap on either end. Put a stripe in the middle. You give them eyeballs, make a little happy face. That works too. And same process as before. Get it on there first, because this stuff's going to dry really fast. If there's any time at the end, then you can make it pretty. Give it a good push with the first application, really thin like that. Get all the little air bubbles filled. Then we'll add a little bit on top, just so we have some to work with. Scrape the board off really clean. This is how you keep it so it's always ready to go when you reach for it. This time we're going to start with a little 120, and we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to stay on the putty with the 120. Now really be careful this time and feel it often. See where you're at, because this is like our final coat. We don't want to have to smear it again. I'll go over it in 180. Make sure you leave enough. You see I haven't feathered this completely out yet. Make sure you leave enough to work with your higher grits. Now down to 220. Drop down to your softer foam block. It's a little flexible. This will do the final prep. Now we're just going to go up to the molding with the last of this and into some of this with a little 600. And blow it off again. Now we're just going to mask up the rest of this. You've already seen that in our prepping video for doing trim and that. So it's the same procedure. We're going to mask up the surrounding area, and then we're going to cover the rest of the vehicle in plastic. So let's do that. Hey guys, I just want to show you something. It's a little time saver. Instead of holding the paper on the car and trying to tape it up in some weird angles or something, just go like that. Try to make your own painter's helper, and then you just take it and apply it to the vehicle a lot easier. Just like that. Now go ahead and pull the plastic over the entire vehicle. We don't want any overspray on the truck. Cover the whole thing. Take a razor blade, just cut that off. Unfold it. I'm going to grab an end here. Pull that right down over the truck. There you go. Just like that.
Folks, just remember to remove the aerial, because it's a pain in the ass to mask around. And tape the plastic down to the paper.
Seal it right up tight. Just like that, no leaks. Okay, right here where we're going to be blending back into the panel, I want you to make a nice little flare here, just like that. Don't touch the car. We want to have a nice soft edge. Now this will be our soft edge for paint, but we're going to prime. We're going to try and keep the primer away from the rest of the red that we've got to blend into here. We are doing a butt match. It's okay We're going to paint the rest of the door. We're going to do the door bottoms on this in another video. But for right now, we've got this one set up, and now we're going to go over it. And what you do, put your painter's helper there. Go right around like that. Rip that off. Now we'll lift that up, and this will also give us a nice soft edge. Here, we're going to go ahead and start with a nice light coat of etch primer anywhere there's bare metal or edges. Underneath on the bottom there. Anywhere you've got bare metal. Let that flash for 5 minutes. Now we're going to go ahead and mix our primer here. This is a urethane primer. It's 4:1 to 10 to 25%, depending on how thick you want it. Go ahead and open that up. Now, we've got a paint stick here. So when you mix 4:1, find what size you want to use. And if you want to go just a small amount, go 4:1 to 25%, which is not much. If you want it bigger, go 4:1 there. And if you want like a whole pot, go 4:1 there, or even 4:1 there. You can use just a ruler if it's old metal one, or don't use plastic. It might kind of melt with the reducer and everything. But yeah, a metal ruler, a wooden ruler works just fine. These cups also have markings on them. If you can find, that's 2:1. There's 3:1. There's 4:1. You can just go there to there if you're just making a small amount. They're right on the cup, which is real handy. You could do this in just about any receptacle. Give it a good stir before you pour it in. Open up the hardener. You don't have to stir this. There's 4:1. Stir that up and pour it in again. Give it a sec to go through the strainer. It's pretty thick. You don't really have to strain primer, but if there's any chunks in it or anything, this just makes it smoother. It's a quicker sand at the end. So let that drill up. That's a full gun right there. That's more than we need. Now we're going to set up our gun. Pull the air. That's your pressure at the head of the gun. What about doing light spraying? You don't want a lot of overspray on everything. Now we're going to do our volume. Okay, so we're going to turn that all the way in. Don't drive it home. Just as soon as it stops, stop. Okay. For primer, usually you want 1 turn, 2 turns out, and if you need more, add it as you go. Now we'll check our fan. We'll do a little test spray. That's perfect right there. Even a little less pressure. A little smaller fan. Perfect. And let that flash for 5 or 10 minutes. Just till it's really nice and dry. Make sure you're really thorough and you got everywhere. Now when you're spraying as well, you'll get a little dry spray on the edge here where you finish off. And that's fine. You're going to get that no matter what. But do your biggest spray first and then get progressively smaller inside of that. Most of the body work is down in here. This was all sanded in 600, and that's why we do that. And that way you won't get a really gravelly line right where you stopped. Just progressively get smaller and do smaller sprays as you add more coats. Or you'll get a really gritty line right here of just dry spray and marbles. Another coat. Now we've got a couple of good coats on there. We're going to let that dry for about 4 hours and maybe put a little heat lamp on it. It'll be drier faster, more faster. And
More
you can
faster.
see if you do good body work, like it didn't take hardly a drop of primer. That's how much we have left. If you do good prep, it gets easier as you go instead of struggling with it at the end. Now we're going to go ahead and clean our gun. I'm going to put some clean thinner in there. Let me just reuse the old paint cup. I got a lid for this too. Unscrew the end. Take one of these fine cleaning brushes. Cut a few of them in there. See, there's all different sizes. Head of this gun's about yay. Just take that, get a little wet. Put it right through the center hole there. Make sure you get that sucker really clean. And on the sides here, these help direct the air into the fan, so you got to keep them clear too. It's very important. If one side is plugged or something, it'll shoot funny and you won't be able to spray very good at all. Okay, now we're going to take the needle valve out. And this has got a spring in it, so you can feel it when you're doing it. There you go. So just be ready for it so you don't shoot it across the room or nothing. It goes out like that. Oh, there we go. You take that out. You just take a rag and wipe that off. Just like that. You want that really clean as well. It's a paint gun. You want the whole thing clean. Slide that back in there like that. You can just take a wrench and unscrew this as well, and then you clean it. It's the same procedure, but this thing's spotless, so you get the idea. Put your spring back on there. Volume knob, and just kind of push in and get it started. Keep pressure on it till you get it in there. And then just turn it. This is the lock. If you want it permanently there. I just leave this off. It doesn't back off really when you're spraying. There's a spring against it. And just go that till it's closed. So we're ready to set up for next time. Reinstall the head. Just wipe the outside. Dip a little thinner on your rag. Then you won't have stuff flaking off the gun and getting into your paint. If you just keep it cleaner, you get a lot cleaner job. And that's it. Now that this is dry, we're going to peel our first soft line off. See that? It's a nice fade. It'll be easy to feather back. Now we're going to go ahead and put some guide coat on there. This will just help you see any imperfections, any low spots, any pinholes. Just rub that on there. We're going to start with a little 320 and we're just going to keep it on the primer. You want to block it. You can see the orange peel in it. That's what you put the guide coat on. Any low spots to that will show up dark. Don't go too far with the 320. Leave a little bit. You see we're getting really close, roughing it out. Leave some for the next grit. We're going to go down to 400, then 600, then 800. Good rule of thumb with sandpaper is don't jump grits by more than 100 to get the scratch of the previous grit out. When you get into the finer grits like 600, 800, 1000, 1200, yeah, then you can. But earlier on, like go from 180 to 240 to 320 to 400, 500, and then you can start skipping by more than 100. It's a good rule of thumb to get the scratch of the previous grit out so you don't get scratches in your paint job. Now 400 grit, and we go just a little further this time. Now 600, we're going to use a softer block now. This is our spongy block again. We pretty much got it blocked straight. Now we're just going to soften it up and take some of that scratch out. Now we're going to blow it off. Go a little further this time. 800 and blow it off. Now our 1000 grit. Now we're going to give it a quick little wet sand with 1200. Just get some on your paper. Get this everywhere. Wipe it down, that'll help clean the surface of any dust. It also does a really nice job of sanding. Like that. Okay, now we're going to take a little rubbing compound. They also make a blending compound. It's basically the same thing. This is actually just a little finer. What we're going to do is just go up under our little scoop here, and we're just going to go right up under there. This is where our blend is going to be, and this will help it stick where we're using the blending solvent, so we can polish it back. Wipe off the residue. You can even peel this back a little bit if you want to. Just like that. Go ahead and wash that off with wax and grease remover. A little rag. Wipe off the residue with a dry rag. Get right under there. Make sure there's no contamination on the surface. Okay, you look good. You ready?
Yep.
All right, let's do it. Okay, you can see that line? That's the factory gravel guard. And as you can see, we're continuing along here. It's a very soft line, so we put another soft edge on there. We've just folded the tape over. Let's go ahead and finish that masking up and get the gravel guard on it. Okay, shake the stuff real good. Same thing as last time. Roll the marble on the bottom of the can. When it sits, it settles on the bottom. So spin your marble on the bottom. Shake it upside down. Shake it right side up. Do this for a couple of minutes. And for every 10 seconds you spray, shake the can for 5 or 10 seconds. Do a test spray on the paper. There we go. See how that gunk came out? Never sprayed directly on the car first off. Now we're going to spray down off this soft line to give it a really soft line so it's just like factory. Just like that. Let it flash for a second. We'll give it one more coat. And that's it. Now just peel off our paper. There's your factory line. Now turn your can upside down and spray it till it comes out clear like that. Now we're going to go ahead and mix our base coat. Let's start by stirring it up, make sure it's ready to go. Then we're going to reduce it and put it in the gun. We're going to reduce this 2 to 1. We shouldn't need much. We're going to probably stay down here. And our reducer. Give that a stir. Just like that. Put our base in our gun. Take our tack rag, we're going to tack that off. Make sure there's no dust on here. Check our tape. Okay, Sarah's all suited up. I'm going to have to put my mask on in a second too. We've got it all tacked off and ready to spray. We've got our base coat in the gun. We're going to show you how to set up the gun. And then there won't be any talking while we're spraying because it'll sound like and yeah, like kind of like Charlie Brown's parents. Okay, we'll start with our volume. Turn that all the way in. Good rule of thumb when you're doing base coat. Open it up 1, just under 2, and then if you need more, add it. This is your pressure control, and this is your fan here. Pressure down. Just do a little test spray. That's just about perfect. We're doing a blend, so we don't want the fan huge. Okay, I gotta put my mask on. Here we go. Start with just a little tack coat. We're not trying to cover it in one coat. Let that flash for a second. We're going to tack it again, and then we're going to add another coat. Check to see if it's ready for another coat. Just run your fingers on it. When it's dry to the touch and you don't get any red on it, well, I've already got red on me. If you don't get any more red on you, then it's ready to tack. And what you're doing is you're getting the dry spray off, so you don't get a really gravelly paint job. And that's the dustiness we picked up off the red we just put on here. If you don't get rid of that, it'll get, as you spray more and more coats, it'll, especially around here where we're blending, it's going to get really gravelly and it's just going to look awful. And let that flash. Now, that's just pretty much the last coat. We've got 4 on it now. We might put one more, but we're going to peel this paper back, and it looks good. We just want to make sure that we're not getting a line where we've got the tape way up here. We've got our little funnel for a reason. So we're just going to tack that off really good and make sure it's nice and clean up there, because that's where we're going to put our blend. Tack it off one more time. Well, we didn't get much, and that's a good sign. And there's no line there. This will be perfect to put our blend in. Didn't waste much, and that can go back in the container too. This base coat doesn't have a hardener in it, and if you keep it sealed, it'll pretty much last forever. Now we're going to go ahead and mix our clear coat. This is 4-to-1. So we'll find 4-to-1 on our cup. It's right there. We shouldn't need much. That would be more than enough. You know what? I'm going to go with the smallest amount. Right there. Just a bit more. There we go. And just 10-15% reducer. Little tiny bit. Let's turn that up. And strain that into the gut. Nice gold spray. Give it a final tack.
Let that flash for about 15 minutes.
Okay, when you feel it's just a little sticky, you're not leaving fingerprints really, and we can put on our last coat. We're going to pull the paper back just a little bit, give ourselves a soft edge there. Like that.
Just like glass.
Do our blending solvent now. We just need a touch. Peel back our paper. Very carefully, this is very wet. Stick that to itself.
Now we're gonna do our blend.
And that's it.
Let dry for about 4 hours.
Well, we can go ahead and unmask this now, and boys, if that ain't a perfect color match. We don't even have to polish that. Yeah, we can put that back together. She's ready to go. Let's finish tearing the paper off. Well, that's it for tonight, everyone. I hope this was helpful to someone. It sure turned out great. We had a lot of fun doing this, and we hope you did too. We're going to assemble it and detail it in the morning. We're just going to let it dry a little bit. Once again, thanks for watching, everybody.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Good night.
Good night.